The years go by, and as I get older, I notice about myself that I started to lose interest in the Pokemon franchise. First I thought it's just me maturing and growing out of old hobbies, but then there came a game out where I started to realize something. It kinda clicked for me when I played Pokemon Legends Arceus. For the first time I was excited and wanted to explore this world with all of its fresh ideas, which were never executed in that way. So it got me thinking, why did I like this version so much more, besides it being something that wasn't done before? And then I realized that this game reinforced a thought that I had for the longest time. The Pokemon franchise isn't using its full potential, especially the anime, and that's why I'm kinda glad that they get bolder with the changes. However, besides game developers not using the resources they clearly have, I even started to dislike something specific, and that's the Pokemon anime. At this point, we all know that Ash will retire from being the main character of the show. While many fans got upset about this, I actually started to be more interested in the Pokemon anime again. To be honest, I waited for them to stop Ash's journey. For the longest time, the anime started to feel repetitive and less interesting for me, even though they tried to change the structure of the show before. It seems like every change that was made, the audience started to dislike it more and more. Either the art style isn't good enough, the animation felt underwhelming, or the characters started to feel like a shell of their former versions. Everyone always wishes they will go back to the time of X and Y, where the anime seemingly peaked after decades. However, a lot of people don't realize that the writers can't go back to that time. I would say X and Y is also the cause why the anime started to struggle even more afterwards, which can be seen in the viewership, and why they tried to change the show after 20 plus years out of nowhere again. I came to the conclusion that Ash himself is holding the anime back when it comes to using the original's material full potential. The anime always felt lackluster, but not because it's too child-friendly. However, I will come back to that point later on, please wait. But what I mean is, the anime builds a formula with Ash as the main protagonist that is not meant to go forever. But what's the problem, you may ask? For over 20 years, the anime followed Ash Ketchum along his journey to become the Pokemon Master, a term that was never explained thoroughly. It was a loose concept, perfect for an episodic show, where we see Ash travel around different regions and while he meets new friends and rivals who end up as big hurdles in the league. Learning from mistakes, and to reach your goal, one has to adapt and train to overcome all kinds of problems. Therefore, we often see Ash helping other trainers, wild Pokemons, or battle Team Rocket. This formula was going strong up to X and Y. In this time period, we saw Ash starting his journey as an amateur. He often needed help from his friends who had more experience, to becoming a more confident Pokemon trainer. Someone who started to inspire his new companions, and he learned how to use the full potential of his rather questionable team. You could easily see the character growth. In Black and White, we got the first restart. Sadly, the first change that they made actually hurt the anime's reputation, since it felt kinda out of place for Ash to suddenly lose all his experience and knowledge he clearly had before. Many people say our MC peaked in X and Y, where he started to train harder and appeared more mature, only to have a massive change again in Sun and Moon and Pokemon Journeys in 2019. As we can see, the anime has many ups and downs, and the thing is, it's not because the writers don't let Ash grow up. No, I don't care that he is 10 or a child. The problem is, there's only so much one can do with an episodic show where the main protagonist tries to reach his goal. Eventually, he has to come closer to it. And I would say in Diamond and Pearl, X and Y, and later on Sun and Moon, we clearly saw him succeeding, but people still felt like something was not right. Episodic characters usually overcome or resolve problems in one episode. There are rarely any consequences. This is perfect for a show which targets a younger audience. They can tune in whenever they want and don't have to worry about missing any major plots. That's why characters change more slowly, if at all. But Ash's dream creates a problem. Normally, the lesson that is learned in one episode can't change the character too much or be permanent, or else it changes the whole dynamic of the show. That's most likely why Ash is not allowed to age. The thing is, there are some shows out there where it's better to have a flat character who don't grow older. This kind of shows tend to focus more on the daily life and the weird and fun shenanigans of the characters. However, Ash expresses many times that he wants to become the Pokemon Master. Here we need some boundaries or rules which prevent the MC from achieving his goals in no time, and that is the missing skill or experience for it. After 2 decades, one can easily ask themselves, why even watch it if the goal of the MCU will never be fulfilled or else the show will end? But let's say you simply enjoy the episodes by its own. I would say for casual watchers there is no big problem, but for many fans there will always be this underlying feeling of being stuck in time, to the point where you can't stop imagining how the show would look like if the characters were allowed to develop. That's just the feeling that I get from the anime. It's not really made for this structure. Ash's dream of becoming the Pokemon Master can only be fulfilled when he changes as a trainer. It would be different if they said he only wants to travel or explore the world. However, Ash is a dynamic character, which means he has to grow over time, otherwise he never comes closer to his goal. But at some point they can't deny that he almost has nothing to learn anymore. I'm pretty sure the reason why they introduced Go as the second protagonist was a way for the writers to tip their toe into the possibility of having a new MC. Ash's screen time got also reduced to give Go the opportunity to establish himself as the new MC, while Ash functioned more as a mentor for him. He was already the more experienced one, but with Go, there is so much more one can do. Honestly, I feel like I am the only one who was happy when they started to focus more on Go instead of Ash. For me, it was the first sign that even the writers try to disconnect themselves from Ash. Here comes the moment where I would like to focus on something else besides the anime. Something that grasps the full potential of the franchise and even adds and explores the original material to make the world of Pokemon more complete. And that is the Pokemon manga. Specifically the manga Pokemon Adventures, or how many people would call it Pokemon Special. The series started first in 1997, written by Hidenori Kusaka, and first illustrated by Mato no Satoshi Yamamoto. It is the longest ongoing manga of the franchise. There's also the famous quote from Satoshi Tajiri himself, where he once said that the series is the best adaptation of how he imagines the Pokemon universe. Yada yada. Unfortunately, this masterpiece still doesn't get as much credit as it deserves in my humble opinion. Contrary to the anime, the manga can be separated in each generation, focusing on the trainer of their game counterparts and follows more accurately the story of the games. Not once did they skip a character like the anime does. It actually created even 2 more original characters and made one of them famous before they even existed in the games. Characters also age and often appear once more to help the newer generation. Each of them has a different goal, but not only that, every protagonist has a special ability, something that they are especially good at. They add so much to their personality and make them super unique and interesting. Honestly, I wish the writers would explore Ash's aura ability a bit more, since it wouldn't change much story-wise, but it would add something to his personality besides being a brave trainer. Unlike the anime, you get a sense of progression. Also, characters can fall in love, I wanna add that, because the anime only hints at potential romance but never goes through with it. Basically, the manga concentrates on a few characters with clear goals which are often fulfilled at the end of the series. It gives the reader a feeling of accomplishment because we could see what the characters had to go through to reach that point. We feel more connected and satisfied with their development. Emotions we usually don't get from the anime, since Ash or his friends never truly reach their goal or get their time to shine. It is only natural to be more interested in a character where we see constant improvement or change to keep the story unpredictable. It is almost like getting rewarded for keeping attention to the little changes. And I'm not saying that an episodic show is not interesting, I could even make a whole video about that topic. What I rather mean is that one is designed to go on like an endless loop, while the other one has a clear vision where the characters will end up. And for an action-packed show like Pokemon, where the main focus are Pokemon battles or living with them, the second one seems more fitting for the theme of the show. Something else I want to add is that the manga seems to be more action-packed. The only exciting moments we get from the anime is when Ash fights one of the gym leaders, the league at the end of a season, or when he battles with a rival or villain team. I'm not even including Team Rocket, you all know why. So you know what also makes a show much more interesting? the fact that there are actual consequences. In the manga, Team Rocket is a much bigger threat to the world, something we never got before. At the same time, the hero's actions also have consequences. Things that happened earlier in the series come back to haunt them later on. They are put in a position where they have to take action or do something, or else the world will be doomed. Okay, the battles in the anime are quite confusing. They are never consistent when it comes to the power dynamics, and common rules of the games are often dismissed. Overall, they are pretty lackluster, besides a few exceptions. For a show that runs already for 2 decades with the main focus of having Pokemon battles, it's not treating it with the care it would need. We already talked about how Ash changes through the show, however when it comes to Pokemon battles, his character growth starts to fall apart. Sometimes he needs to learn basic rules, and sometimes he knows everything and can come up with some strategies. Not really consistent if you ask me. The manga in comparison treats their trainer with more respect. They give them the power to use their brains by remembering that the Pokédex is a thing and that it contains important information which can often be the key to winning or resolve the situation. Also, they use the combination of 2 or more Pokémon attacks. I'm kind of surprised that they limit themselves in the anime so much. These little changes are not hard to make, but somehow they never do it. Actually, trainers are way more active. They are not afraid to get involved in fights. They get hurt or put themselves in danger, but this changes the dynamic in the fights completely. The risks are high, readers get excited and want to know how they get out of it. Feelings you rarely get from the anime, since they are always just standing there. As if they can move, like, come on, it's a serious moment, please do something. I'm getting frustrated over here. It really frustrates me when they make such a big deal out of it when Ash jumps before a hurt Pokemon to imply that he is so brave and he has such a big heart. Meanwhile, in the manga they are almost dying. I think most people would say that the anime needs to be more mature or target the audience who grew up with the anime and are now older. Remember that point, we will come back to it later. But the manga already has a good balance. They use their full potential and don't waste time when it comes to action. Fights don't have to be serious every time, but by putting in the effort, one can emerge way more into the world. Besides that, I also want to highlight how fitting the Pokemon teams are. In the manga we have many different protagonists with magic teams. Yes, one could say that they are maybe not the strongest, but if the trainer's goal is not to win the league, there is no reason for them to be strong. I am pointing this out because Ash's team is quite questionable when you remember that his goal is to become the Pokemon Master. Yes, it doesn't specifically say that he wants to be the strongest out there, but he also won against Leon and he is a champion, which implies he is also the strongest trainer, and I don't believe it. So the thing with Ash being forever 10 years old gets most annoying when it comes to the world building. We know that Ash travels around the world and meets new people who he often promises to meet up again. This never happens, since it would be impossible due to the hundreds of filler episodes. Only more important side characters appear again, but even then, this doesn't do much since the characters in the show are not allowed to make big progress, or else it would create this weird disconnect to Ash and his slow development. But the limitation of the manga only focusing on one region gives them more opportunities to make actual use of their characters. They appear more regularly and are part of the story. Once there was a time where Gold lost to a villain, so Crystal took over as the main protagonist for the time he was unconscious. The story still moved on and important events happened while Gold was still out of the picture. While in one version the world still moves on, the other one seems like it's frozen in time. But besides the characters, the manga actually enhances the ideas of the games and even builds on it. This way they can explain some things that maybe don't make sense in the games. Like that time where Bill got stuck in a Pokemon's body, a character who had barely any screen time before but had much bigger impact in the manga. Or when they introduced baby Pokemons and how Pikachu got his official name. The manga is a much closer adaptation of the games compared to the anime. That's why it would function as a way more effective marketing tool to popularize the original material. The games usually tell a new story, which follows completely new characters, antagonists, rivals, friends, and Pokemons. The manga uses this as their base for the story while working around it for the sake of a well-rounded world. The anime also does this to an extent, unless it's something from Gala, because for some reason they hate this region. However, they are never as explored. Story arcs often get no time to have a proper build-up because the events can't have a long-term impact on the characters like I explained before. Also, I want to highlight that the manga uses the gadgets of the games exactly the same. You can feel how the creators try to follow the games as close as they can. I appreciate the little details they put behind their work. For example, the importance of using your Pokédex with little descriptions which look exactly like the ones of the games. Trainers can also look through their Pokéball, which reminds you of the menu, introducing eggs and baby Pokémons as a new concept. Besides that, in the show it gets kinda hard to follow Ash on his journey because the anime contains many cities which are not in the games, while the characters in the manga follow strictly the cities in the right order, where they meet the exact same characters and help them like they do in the games. Compared to the anime, many people have the assumption that the manga is super dark, because back in the day that was one of the biggest shock factor the manga offered when it was discussed on YouTube. Also, it was an easy and effective way to make people aware that a manga does exist. I want to focus on the point that the manga isn't actually dark. Rather, I would say it's much more mature and serious. While the anime holds back to be more suitable for children, the manga doesn't. Yes, mature topics are shown in the anime, for example when Marlo talked to her already deceased mom and how she regrets her last words to her. However, it is always displayed in a way to make the situation less gruesome. Either the situation isn't even real or wounds are not shown. I'm not saying that a mature show needs that, but with more dangerous outcomes and consequences, it raises the stakes for the protagonist, which makes the manga compared to the anime more interesting. Many times you see characters betraying each other, massive destruction occurring, or people getting hurt, which leads to serious injuries that cannot be fixed immediately, while the fights have more gravity compared to the anime. Seeing the protagonist overcome these problems helps you to connect with them much faster. Plus, it enhances the reading experience since the storyline becomes less predictable compared to the formula of the anime. I'm not saying that the manga is this super deep, complex story because at the end of the day, nothing too bad happens to the main characters. After all, there are many funny moments in the manga and shenanigans from the characters to keep it lighthearted. And that's okay, it has a great balance, and that's why it doesn't feel out of place if the main goal of a character is to become a comedian while others try to stop the evil organization. I think no one wishes that the Pokemon franchise becomes this dark story. I'm aware that many of the topics which are discussed here will be probably answered in the next few months or even a year, but I also made this video to simply talk about the concerns I overall have about the Pokemon anime. Most ideas which are displayed here are mainly mentioned to give the manga a little bit of love, so more people start to notice that they are missing the best adaptation of the Pokemon franchise. Bye!